One of the most important things to learn about overcoming a poverty spirit is how to recognize its existence and operation. See which aspects of the poverty spirit you can recognize in this short story about the first business I ever started. In 1991, I had a group of 8 friends that worked in a large smelter. One night, they announced that they had all been laid off from their jobs that day. They were all distraught and wondering what could they possibly do. I was reminded of the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 when he told his disciples, "You feed them." Then he said, "What do you have?" "Only a few fish and a little bit of bread," they told him. I asked my friends, "What do you have available to work with?" I reminded them that now they had plenty of time on their hands, some basic income through unemployment benefits, and the ability to work hard and be creative. They seemed unable to see any possibilities, so they told me, "We need your help because we don't know what to do." I asked myself the same question I had asked them and realized I had just taken delivery of a brand new rototiller. So I told them all to come to my home on Saturday morning at 6 a.m. and I ran an ad for rototilling. By Friday, after answering all the calls that came in, I was prepared for a full day of work to begin on Saturday morning. To my surprise, Bob was the only one who showed up to work. Each of the others called with an excuse for why they weren't coming to work. By the end of that summer, I had built a substantial business, expanding into lawn care, landscaping, sprinkler repairs, etc., and was employing 15 people. I turned that company over to Bob, and he went on to run that business for over 20 years, making a great living and employing an average of 75 people a year. All the other guys continued going from one low-paying job to another for years, complaining all the while about the terrible hand that they had been dealt. In a previous discussion about the poverty spirit, we saw that it blinds us to options and corrupts our faith, making it easier to believe the worst. It causes small vision, and a person can't imagine how they could grow or expand their life. That causes fear, which results in a failure to start something new or to commit to the success of a new venture. That fear manifests itself as a fear of failure or even a fear of success. Many are afraid that if they do well, their friends or family will reject them. Unreal definitions of security cause people to stay in situations where they feel secure because they know how much and where their next check will be, failing to realize the situation can be terminated against them on any day without notice. The key to overcoming any problem, including a poverty spirit, is to recognize it and to make a decision to reverse it. All of these friends were Christian men. What was their response to being laid off saying about the subject of their faith? Were they trusting in God for their provision or the smelter? What was the main difference between the response of Bob and the responses of the other men? You see, Bob had no more experience or resources than any of the guys, but he was searching for opportunities rather than complaining about loss. At the end of the summer, with no guarantees of where future business would be found, he decided to press forward with the business opportunity that had been handed to him. Though he had the same fears as the rest, he didn't let that hold him back. I marveled when I heard one of the other men complain about Bob having been so lucky. He was distraught once again because he had been laid off from yet another job and was paralyzed with fear over whether or not he would be able to support his family. I suggested he go ask Bob for a job, but he refused because he didn't want lucky Bob to make money from his words. His unrealistic definition of security kept him from preparing for his own future through wise planning and kept him from taking the risk of a new venture. That poverty thinking focuses only on today's need because these men received unemployment benefits. They made no efforts to find other work or start businesses, believing that before the end of their benefits, the smelter would hire them back. However, that smelter ultimately closed for good. It never reopened. This brings up another important point. The poverty spirit causes a person to feel that they're owed a living from an employer, the government, family, maybe other people. A prosperous mindset realizes that there's value in all work and that personal security is only built on increasing personal value. In other words, if your work doesn't produce more value than you get paid, there is no security. A prosperous mindset in a Christian causes a person to work hard as to the Lord, committed to increasing the prosperity of his employer. Did you notice the title to this blog, Why I Started My First Company? Did you catch the reason within the story? I'll expand on this in a future blog. I'm Greg Lennebuck. Thanks for tuning in.